Let me come immediately to you, David. First of all, frankly, if you were to talk to us from the deepest, bitter part of the bottom of your heart and soul, how does it feel like to be the director of the Voice of America?
It's the greatest honor I have yet had in my life because the mission of this broadcasting organization is so vital. And so I get up every day excited about that. It's also one of the most difficult things I've ever done. This is a very large organization. There are 43 language services in Voice of America. Each has their own issues and problems and opportunities. And it's a very big workforce. We have a lot of transmitters and all sorts of technological issues, plus the journalistic ones. There are security issues. We have to worry about the safety of our people. There's just a myriad of things on my desk. But I get up in the morning excited and come to work very excited about the mission because we're reaching out to the rest of the world with fulfilling our mission, which Congress gave us. First of all, to try to provide objective and balanced news broadcasting, and sometimes to countries where that isn't available otherwise. And secondly, to help explain America and American values.
You come from a very interesting background. You worked as a radio broadcaster with a platform, frankly, that is considered by some to be perhaps the platform of radio stations here in the United States. That is NPR.
Right.
You worked with ABC News, one of the most respected, international commercial broadcasting, and of course CNN, the CNN factor.
Yes.
You've been all over Europe. You've been all over. You've been a diplomat.
Yes.
You've also, for a stint, actually been in business.
True.
How have those different roles prepared you to serve in this particular capacity?
Well, Shaka, for 32 years I was a journalist, and it is tremendously helpful to me in leading a what is fundamentally a journalistic organization, to have had that kind of background. I think it helps me to sort of see the low-hanging fruit, the opportunities, the things that can be done better and might work more effectively. Because of my time, well, there you see me on the air on CNN some years back.
Yes.
I didn't wear glasses back in those days, Shaka,
but
I do now. The background helps, no question about it, the journalistic background. In terms of the diplomacy, I was, of course, as you know, in the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. I had the honor to try to help our effort there to help the Afghan people. I learned a lot about how government works, how sometimes it doesn't work so well, and how to try to get things done in the U.S. federal government context. I also got a chance to meet all the folks who work for VOA in Kabul and to see how that operation works firsthand, and spend some time and also see what their journalism looked like and how Afghans reacted to it. So that was very useful as well.
Very interesting. Now, you're talking, of course, about the Voice of America now. There are some in the audience who perceive the Voice of America, in their words, to be a propaganda arm of the United States government. How do you respond to those?
My response to that is, you are misguided. That is not what Voice of America is. I carry around with me, and I have it right now, the charter of the Voice of America. And this is a law. This is a law that we have to follow, and we follow it with a certain amount of pride. And it requires us to serve as a consistently reliable and authoritative source of news that attempts to be accurate, objective, and comprehensive. I could go on, but that's the main point. That's what we try to do here. Do we fail sometimes? You're always going to. When we find that our journalism isn't up to snuff, we try to improve it. But the goal, and the reason I was honored to accept this job as an old journalist, is to try to be as objective and balanced as we can, to let our audience make the decisions about what they want to think. Not to try to tell them what to think, but to try to set the sort of information menu for them, to help them figure out what's important, but not to tell them what to think about it. That's for them to decide.
Now, the continent we cover, when we talk about state media, what it means largely is that a very powerful politician can pick up a phone and call the chief executive officer of a television station or radio station and say, you know what, you have to stay away from that story. What about in your particular case? Do you sometimes get any pressure from policymakers here in Washington, D.C., for example, to slant the news to reflect U.S. vital national strategic interests?
The short answer is no. The longer answer is a little more complicated. I mean, here's the thing. I was appointed by the board, the Broadcasting Board of Governors, which oversees all of U.S. international broadcasting. That includes Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, and some other broadcasters, Middle East Broadcasting Network. And they operate as a sort of a firewall. So, in other words, I'm not appointed by the President of the United States. I'm not part of the current President's team, nor would I be part of the previous president, or, in other words, we have a measure of independence from policymakers. That doesn't mean we don't talk to them, and sure, problems might be raised occasionally, but I don't see my role as getting involved, telling journalists what to report. We might set the agenda of what stories we think ought to be covered, and Congress and the administration decides in what languages and in what places it is in the U.S. national interest to broadcast. But that said, we leave it up to professional journalists to decide what to say. And I don't believe in micromanaging journalists. I think we have to make sure we have good caliber, good training, good standards, and then we need to trust our people.